Now, Stu, a little under a quarter of a century ago, a group of people got together from the ashes of a football club ripped away from its community, formed a phoenix entity that in just 9 years went from nothing to the Football League. 18 years later, it would return the club back to its true home. And last year, it celebrated victory at Wembley for the second time in, yes, 9 years. Really shows the spirit of Wimbledon, and who knows what the future could hold. Where could AFC Wimbledon be in another 9 years?
I don't wanna wait for our lives to be over. I want to know right now, what will it be? I don't wanna wait for our lives to be over. Will it be yes or will it be sorry?
All right, everybody, and welcome to the 9 Years podcast. Thank you very much for downloading the show this week. I am Nick Draper, joined, as always, by the face of the BBC Sport website, Mr. Stuart Deakins. And all of a sudden, Wimbledon have become the entertainers of the third tier of English football. We've got goals, goals, and goals to talk about. 3-3 draw with Barnsley, 4-1 defeat at Cardiff. We'll touch on briefly, I imagine. We'll talk about squad selection and injury problems. We shall play another round of Richard Osman Foyer's House of Games. We'll look ahead to the visit of Bradford City on Saturday. And yes, of course, we have football finances and football ownership models to discuss. But Stu, before we do any of that, I would like to wish you, and I'd like to I'd like to wish all our listeners a very happy Lent. Just doing that on behalf of AFC Wimbledon.
Very kind.
I know, just because sometimes they forget. Anything you're giving up for Lent this year? Or are you doing something like I'm doing? Are you going to be more active as opposed to giving something up? You're going to promise to do something more, something better?
I would say get better on a podcast, but that would be lying. I don't know. Maybe I would be better in terms of hope for the club for the rest of the season. That would be what I will doing.
You're going to be more hopeful for the future of AFC Wimbledon.
Okay. There we go.
Hope is important, very important. Can't get through life without hope. I don't have anything quite as prophetic or profound as that one, Stu, actually. I'm just going to try and procrastinate less.
Lovely.
And on that note, we should get on with the podcast, I suppose. Barnsley. Should we start with Barnsley? Because I know we lost it Tuesday night at Cardiff, league leaders Cardiff. I know we lost 4-1. We don't want to talk about that, really. I suppose Matty Stevens got back on the goal sheet, on the score sheet. So that was good. Otherwise, a defeat that most people expected. I foolishly thought we might pick up a point because just couldn't imagine Cardiff carrying on winning games and carrying on scoring goals, but they seem like a juggernaut at the minute and nothing's going to stop them. So let's start with Barnsley. And there's a word you used on the podcast last week that I want to revisit, and that word is resilience. Because I think if nothing else, that's what we can take away from being 2-0 down inside, quarter of an hour?
Yeah.
To actually turn the game around, be 3-2 up before conceding a late equaliser. Again, we can talk about conceding of goals after the 75th minute, but I think a draw on Saturday was perhaps fair overall.
Yeah, I think so. It was a weird one because the game started off, we played okay, like possession-wise. We had a lot of possession, looked like we had a threat going forward. And I think to sum up the whole game was if it wasn't that they had Dave McGoldrick, I think we'd have got something. He is just he's a championship player playing in the wrong division. And he's just, everything that was good about Barnsley had him involved, and he was involved in all 3 goals. So, yeah, I just think sometimes you just got to hold. It reminded me, actually, do you remember the save that Nathan Bishop did against him in the home game? A miraculous save. And it was one of those. He's a big threat for Barnsley. He's old. No, he must be hitting close to 40 now, mustn't he? But he's just such a good player, intelligent player.
What did you make of their left winger, Cleary?
Yeah, he scored again midweek. I thought it was okay. I think our weakness is our fullback areas, the way we play. And again, to be fair, McGoldrick found him for the first goal. Just was it first goal or second goal? I'm trying to think now. Second goal. Sorry. But yeah, Tilly just had a bit of a nightmare for the first 20. I think we then decided to double up on him, and he got substituted. But yeah, decent. If you give him space, he's going to hurt you.
I don't want to pick out one player in particular because I know a lot of criticism went James Tilley's ways. He did get an assist for the equaliser to redeem himself somewhat. But I think it was for the first goal where he got beaten. I think he was put in a really difficult position because no one helped him out. He was 1-on-1 against the winger, and the ball and time seems to stand still for about 5 minutes as they wrestled over it. And I thought, why has no one else gone over to give him a hand? And why did it take us to be 2-0 down to do that? But anyway, that's picking.
Yeah, I just think we've obviously set up differently how we're playing. We've gone back to a 3-5-2, something like that. But Tilly, to be fair, Tilly played that position last season and played it in League Two. He's a miles better player going forward than he is defensively. And we played Junior and King on the other side. And to be fair, Cardiff gave him an absolute night. In the end, we had to change it around and put Callum Maycock in it, which makes you laugh. Callum Maycock's probably no better defensively anyway. But we have changed. We are a lot more on the front foot. And to be honest with you, I think you accept the fact we might be weak in the fullback areas if it means that we've got more attacking threat. Because I think you stay in this league by scoring goals rather than trying to keep clean sheets, which we haven't done.
Is the problem though is that we've got two wing backs now that are both defensive, whereas before you could argue that perhaps Asimwe wasn't as defensively secure as Seddon on the other side. Now we've got two players there that perhaps aren't defensively as good, and also. Are you a bit surprised? I've said this in other places. Steve Seddon was our player of the year for the first 6 months of the season, playing left wing back. And now we've moved him to accommodate Nkeng.
Yeah.
Did we need to do? I know there's other issues because we've lost Harbottle, which I think might have made a difference in terms of team selection as well. Joe Lewis is injured. Patrick Bauer clearly is not fancied to play 90 minutes at this level by Johnny Jackson. So it sort of leaves us in a bit of a conundrum in that way. But yeah, it's still, I don't think any other club would, or teams tend to take your best player and move them.
Yeah, there's no doubt we have tried to find a way of keeping Nkeng in the side. There's just no doubt about that. We've Johnny Jackson's got history of turning a forward into a wing back. He does it all the time. That's his speciality. And don't get me wrong, he's worked. Josh Nerville works perfectly when you think of that side of it. I just don't think Junior Nkeng has that defensive nous. However, Nkeng is causing me a bit of a headache because I was like, you can't keep playing a youngster like this, and I don't think defensively he's good enough. However, he's very exciting when he goes forward. And it's enjoyable to watch him, to be honest with you, despite his faults. And also I think it tells you a massive thing when you move Maycock into right wing back and don't bring Asimwe on. I think that tells you everything you need to know about what Johnny thinks of Asimwe.
Yeah, because that's one thing I noticed about the goals against Cardiff on Tuesday was the fact that, as you mentioned there, given a hard time, Nkeng, we seem to change shape more to a 5-4-1 in which Callum Maycock was a right back as a back five. Just you do wonder what kind of are we bending over backwards to not include players, which is causing us more headaches than it should do.
Probably. It's difficult to argue at the moment because we do look a threat going forward. There is no doubt about that, and I think. In my head, I think you keep Junior Nkeng in and try and accommodate him because I think, he's getting close to scoring a goal now. I know it sounds a bit silly, but he's getting a lot more confidence. And I think we have to persevere with that. I don't think Cardiff was the most sensible decision because their week, I think, is it Tanner for just terrorised him. But then, to be fair, he's been outstanding this season. And you shouldn't judge a player on Cardiff because they're just a different animal. But it's obviously, Johnny, you can tell Johnny is in his head, he's got his first 11 And no matter what he does, he's not going to change away from that. I still have an argument about substitutes. I think he's way too late on substitutes. And Barnsley, I felt that was one of the issues because we didn't make our first sub until, let me just check, 76 minutes, I think. Yeah. Yeah, our
And that
first
was
sub
a
was
Simway.
Junior and King. Yeah.
Yeah.
So whereas Barnsley made their first sub on 60 minutes, which is normally around about that's what a lot of teams are doing nowadays. But Barnsley were pushing us back, and you just felt it needed a little bit more energy. And actually, it was only Junior and Kang that changed it, and then we brought two subs on in the 87th when the game was 3-0. So I still think it's a weakness of Johnny, but I think it's balanced by the fact that he's very keen on keeping a strong 11 rather than utilising his squad, which he must be thinking isn't as strong as he'd like to.
No, it's not because, Brody Hughes, who knows? Leighton Stewart, who knows? Joe Lewis,
Who knows?
knows?
To be fair, Joe Lewis would done well to keep his place anyway. I think
Yes.
it's form. But even so, when you look at the bench, there's only one defender on there. There's another wing back who just doesn't seem to be trusted in Nathan Asimwe. Which is, Joe what? It's the biggest fall of grace that I've seen. Because he was outstanding. Think about the early run we had. He was outstanding.
Mm.
And he's just gone from outstanding to sitting on the bench.
Mm. Do you think Asimwe came on just after we went 3-2 up at Barnsley? And I assume that was to tighten things up defensively and see out the win. And we conceded. So, and he's become, again, it looks like perhaps the fall guy for that.
Possibly. But I think I remember saying on the podcast that I was always seeing him really struggling fitness-wise. I don't think he's naturally got the match fitness. Because the amount of games I saw, and this was the beginning of the season, where he was literally on his knees, literally trying to get air into his lungs. I just think he isn't. I don't think he's actually the most fittest of actual footballers. I think that's something that maybe he needs to work on. But yeah, I think we're only going to use him now and then if we need to. He's not, when you move Callum Maycock to right wing back and don't bring on a Simway, it sort of tells you what Johnny thinks.
If McKeng is getting a run of games, like you say, I would expect him to have had a rest by this point. I thought that would have been Tuesday night. It seemed to be the obvious one. A run of games that Aaron Sassu never gets or got. I don't know if there's anything to read into that whatsoever, but it does make you wonder, doesn't it?
Well, me being cynical, I think Nkeng is a valuable asset. I know it sounds horrible, but he's in a shop window. He's now playing League One. If he scores some goals and does well, then you might get a team. I think we do well to keep him in the summer. I really do, because he's a sellable asset, and we ain't exactly rolling in cash. So it's probably a little bit of a keep him in the shop window, because I think he will get, I think he'll get some interest in the summer.
I think, as you say, though, we need some more end product from him before teams will come in, because these types of players, you don't see a lot of them these days. And that's not to say that they don't exist, but it's almost like they are, because of the nature of the way football is played these days. It's completely coached and out of them. Tactics and the team take precedence. So a player like that who can make something happen and doesn't really feature as much these days, which is a shame. If we can add some goals and some end product to it, then maybe we're talking. I'm thinking Ayub Asal for a comparison.
Yeah, and that's the natural comparison, isn't it, with Ayub? Although Ayub was a different beast. If I'm being, yeah, Ayub had goals to his game instantly, didn't he? And body strength, and to be fair, Nkeng is not weak by any stretch. I think Joe. Yeah, there's not many players like Nkeng, definitely in League One, who Cardiff at some points were putting 2 and 3 players around him. I think because they knew that actually he would still keep the innocence of youth. Sometimes is that he does the same. He wants to keep beating players without realising that if 2 or 3 players are coming to mark you, then that means there's spare players elsewhere. But that is something that can be coached and worked on with him. But I don't see many players in our league. I don't recall many of our players doubling up or trebling up on a player, because you don't really tend to get many players in our league that have that individual ability, which is a shame. But a lot of teams are very methodical how they play, very possession based and basics, whereas Nkeng is a little bit out of that normal.
Another goal for Marcus Brown, a brace for Omar Bugle, another couple of assists. We're talking about wing backs and end product, and our centre half has got more assists than anyone else in this past week. Steve Seddon with another couple of assists to his name. But Omar, I think I saw something. Barnsley fans are not complimentary about the defence. We talked about last week about how poor they are and weak they are defensively.
Yeah.
And as somebody said, Omar Bugle managed to score as many goals in 2 minutes against them as he has done for the past 6 months, which is, there's two sides to every story. I think Omar, then, will be very happy to get his name back on the score sheet. Two good headers, but will we see him on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Obviously, Johnny Jackson in his post-match didn't really know. It was probably too early to. I think he said he felt something in his thigh, so hopefully it's just a strain or something. But yeah, Joel Omar's been decent. I think he was decent in the Port Vale game. Definitely decent against Barnsley. I think it's a bit harsh. I think the header was a great header. Great ball from Steve Seddon, let's be fair. And the second one is just hilarious because it just, as Omar said, he just hit him on the head. But it's a great goal in terms of, a shot that's going way wide, hits his head, and then at the same time he slides into the goal on his knees. And it's just, I don't know, the whole goal is just like, Omar is not what if you look at celebrations, right, Marcus Brown can be a little bit of an antagonistic individual celebration.
Yes.
Well, Omar just isn't. Omar's very matter of fact, isn't he?
I somewhat disagree with that.
I always say he's a wind-up merchant.
I would say he's 100% a wind-up merchant.
Well, yeah, but he's physical and strong, isn't he? I think they're two different characters.
Yeah.
I have to say, by the way, our third goal was excellent in terms of the ball in. Maycock has hit such a range. Form is unreal. The touch, the awareness is excellent. And at the moment, Maycock is probably one of the first names on the team sheet, which I find this is a person who couldn't even get into the squad in the beginning of the season.
We were convinced he was out in January. We were convinced.
Absolutely. But at the moment, everything that's good about us in terms of our attacking presence is coming through him.
Yeah.
And at the moment, he's a bigger loss than Omar, which is a crazy thing to say, but he's been outstanding.
The thing with Omar, shall we say, what's the phrase? How do I phrase this one? He does things, he's a little bit more subtle than Marcus Brown. Marcus Brown will do things to wind up people and he'll take a player out if he gets frustrated or whatever and things like that. Omar is niggly. He's the player that, how many times do you see a ball go up in the air and Omar doesn't jump, but he just nudges the defender out of the way? I mean, 9 times out of 10, he gives away a free kick, but that's that's how he does it. I think he likes winding up opposite that. When he scores, I think he quite likes winding up opposite.
Yeah, I think he likes the physical battle. I think that's very much his game on that. But I think if you look at the team at the moment, since Port Vale, we have here, and it's really interesting what Johnny was saying. Johnny was, went to Cardiff, and a lot of Cardiff fans have said we're probably the most attacking team that they've seen come to Cardiff because a lot of teams just sit behind the ball. And Johnny mentioned that, could have done that, could have sat behind the ball and still lost the ball, still lost it 1 or 2-0.
Yeah.
But we've come and have a go. And it's really weird. If you look at Johnny through the season, he's changed so many times. He's changed in terms of how he sets up, his formation, his personnel. It's been a really interesting season. It's like he's learning on the job this year. But I like this version of Johnny Jackson in terms of the attacking threat. Even at Cardiff, we had more than enough chances to score. I think we had something like 17 shots. And some of them were on target. We're actually getting a lot of shots on target.
Yeah.
And I just think this is the way we should be, because I just think, we're going to win more games 3-2 than we are going to win a game 1-0. I think clean sheets, I think we've only kept clean sheets for 19% of the games. What's that? Probably no more than 5-6. So I think we're better going forward than we are defending.
Do you think he's realised that a lot of teams at this level defensively are really quite poor. And we had a long spell where we were struggling, like we know at home we were struggling to score goals, and we never looked like scoring. But we seemed to match up teams like Stevenage and Mansfield, who just kept things tight, just sort of cancelled each other out. And he's realised that actually, we know Barnsley, Reading, these teams defensively not very good. So why not? Why not have a go? And if you're going to go away to Cardiff, yeah, you're right. Go down swinging. At least have a bit of fun along the way.
Yeah, yeah, and do you know what? Obviously, I think obviously Ken coming into the side, Maycock coming into the side, have really helped us. And also the decision to drop Jay Reeves, I think, has proved right. I think you can't not say that. The energy in midfield is really good at the moment. I still think there's a place for Jake Reeves in this squad, and I think you'll probably see him rested for not rested, but in terms of not starting. I think for next probably Bradford, but I think you'll probably see in March we've got a lot of games as we're going to discuss a bit later. But I think you'll probably see Jake Reeves come in a lot in March. But there's no doubt with having Smith, Maycock, Hippolyte in that midfield, there's a lot of legs in there. And then you obviously got Zach Nelson who can come in and do a job. So I think it's not. I think the form that's increased has coincided with us changing a little bit of how we want to play in our midfield areas.
Always the flip side to this is that creating more chances, conceding more chances. It's 9 goals conceded in the last 3 games. So we have to balance that one out and say, and also disappointingly, set pieces. I think we will all be surprised at how we conceded set pieces on Tuesday night. The first one, a routine that they've worked and, fair play, it's come off for them. Second one, bog standard defender near post corner, surely.
Yeah, they weren't great, and it's normally our strength of set pieces. But Cardiff are I just think Cardiff are a very good side in a lot of form, a lot of movement, and experience out of League One. So not overly worried. You're right about the goals being conceded. There's no doubt about that. But I think that's something we just have to take on the chin. I think for the fact that we're going to be a bit more attacking will mean that we're going to leave a few more gaps at the back. But the proof's in the pudding, isn't it? We've picked up our last 4 games. We've picked up 7 points. I think I saw something early on that I think it took us that time to pick up points in the mid part of the season. I think it took us about 15 games to pick up that many points. So ultimately, if we can pick up the points now, and I think the gap between us and the fourth from bottom is 5 points now, but that's massive at this point in the season. So I think we will have more chance of staying up playing the way we are than that sort of more defensive shape that Johnny played sort of mid part of the season.
I think you look at it, 5 points above the relegation zone. Northampton occupy the last relegation zone place at the moment. They have played a game more than us. I'm pretty confident. I mean, you should never say never, but I just look at it and go, Port Vale are down. There are teams down there. I think we've just got to finish above 3 other teams, and I think we can do that comfortably. I don't see us struggling to do that with 15 games to go, which the majority of them are at home, which could be might not be what we think it is. We're looking around the division as a whole, looking at results that took your eye this past week. I have to say, Mansfield, who are on a terrible run in the league at the moment, at least 6 without a win in the division. But what a phenomenal FA Cup victory they had at their second home, Turf Mill, on Saturday.
Yeah, I just don't understand the FA Cup. I've just seen before we started recording this, we've just seen that there's no 3 o'clock kickoff for is it a 5th round now? Yeah, 5th round.
5th round. What a joke. What an absolute disgrace.
There's no 3 p.m. kickoff. They're all on TNT. I think a couple on BBC. But I just think the FA Cup, Burnley made so many changes. And you just sit there and think, their first team would beat Mansfield. There's no doubt about that. But it's just like this. In a way, I'm glad that Burnley got knocked out, and it could Scott Parker could technically lose his job because of it. Not just that, but I just think it's the disrespect. The thing is interesting. Arsenal put out a really strong side against Wigan. Man City did the same, and they easily beat that sort of opposition. But fair play to Mansfield. They've got a home draw, haven't they? Oh, it's a home draw to Arsenal.
Yes.
who are bottling it at the moment, which is highly amusing to see.
It's February, Stu. They can't bottle it in February.
Well, I watched the last 10 minutes of the Wolves game, and yeah, it's just hey, look, Wolves are better than what they were, but they're a relegated team. But Arsenal, the shock of Arsenal bottling it is just hilarious in a way. And they play Tottenham, don't they, in the North London derby on Sunday? So I'm sure Tottenham fans are looking forward to that. But yeah, Joe, in terms of the league, I think you're right. I think Port Vale, I would say Port Vale, Rotherham, Orient are the teams that I think will go down. The other place, I'm not so sure about Northampton. I think they've got enough about them. Wigan have got Colwell in now. Is it Colwell?
Yeah, Caldwell, yeah.
Who I think is a very good manager. I think that's good. Burton are probably, I think it's Burton or Doncaster that may well drop in there. I don't see us at the moment, although that could change. We know that very quickly. To be fair, once we went 3-1 down against Cardiff, the game was gone. So I actually did watch the Orient Plymouth game.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yeah.
Orient are absolutely shocking.
Well, this is what we said when we beat them.
They look even worse than when we beat them.
Well, that's saying something because they were shocking when we beat them.
And what I would say, Ronan Curtis moved from Port Vale to Plymouth in the January window. Port Vale must have been playing him out of position, or he just didn't like anywhere. He didn't like Port Vale because every time I see Plymouth now, he is involved in goals, crosses. It's like the player that we had. He's been a massive influence for them. But Orient, I just don't see it. Richie Wellens, I think, is a good manager. But the funny thing is now, he's actually got, I don't know if you saw that, his son is actually playing for Orient now as well, which I think puts an awful lot of pressure on both of them. Because naturally the question will come when you're doing rubbish is, where are you playing your son? Your favourite. But they just look terrible. And they come to us. I can't wait for them to come to us because I think that's a game we have a big chance of winning.
Yeah, and I know we lost to Northampton in the league, and we lost to Wigan, and we lost to. I should stop talking. We lost to Doncaster as well, but we've got Blackpool, Northampton, and Leyton Orient all still to come to Plough Lane. We still have to go to Wigan. We host we have to go to Mansfield. Sorry, next week actually. So
a week before they play Arsenal, so hopefully they're all concentrating on that.
Yeah, so I don't worry for us in terms of keeping our position in the third tier for this season. I worry about us in many ways, but that currently is not one of them. The Plymouth Leyton Orient game, I saw one of the goals. I died laughing when I saw it. It came up on Nazi Twitter, and Plymouth scored. And just at the moment Plymouth scored, Leyton Orient's LED advertising board started flashing, going, "Come on, you O's." And I was like, well, there you go. That serves you right for having those stupid boards. It made you look absolute idiots.
It goes back to the timing. There's two games I remember at Kingsmeadow. One, the Lyle Taylor goal against them when the blue smoke. It was just like the timing was unreal. And the other one was when we scored against Charlton, I believe, when we put that sign about Carl Robinson.
Oh, yes.
And sometimes timing is just everything, isn't it? It's just like the picture. Yeah, I didn't realise that, but I think Leyton Orient need a lot more than advertising to tell them to. They just look so bad. I looked at them and thought, you've gone from a potential championship promoted club because they lost to Charlton in the playoff final to a club that could get relegated. And they got, and I know it's not all about budgets, but it probably is. They've probably got their best budget they've ever had. And they are, well, shocking.
Jack Curry, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's what they've lost.
It's just really interesting. I remember chatting to Jack at the Orient game. So I went to the Orient Stockport game. And I lie. It was when Will Nightingale come back. There's a testimonial in the summer. And Jack Curry come back to that. And I remember chatting, I get on well with Jack, and I remember chatting to him and saying, it's going to be tough in League One. And he was honest, said, you know what, you'll be fine. It goes not as difficult as you would imagine. And he was really confident. He said, yeah, it's going to be good teams, but you'll be okay. He thought Orient would be fine, in terms of that. But Orient was also built on a lot of loanees.
Yeah, that's a
and a
lot of
lot of
players.
loanees, and they lost players also transfer wise. So I think they're all seeing that. And again, it goes back to what we said before: recruitment, recruitment, recruitment. It just we've seen the flip side of recruitment of when it can be bad under Robbo,
Mhm.
and when it can be good, very good under Craig Cope.
We shall, of course, look ahead to the game with Bradford on the weekend a little bit later on. But Stu, I think with all that said, and we talk about recruitment, it all tends to link back to finances. So do you want to spend a little bit of time talking about finances again?
Yeah, do you know what? A couple of interesting things. So there's a lot of anyone that follows Kieran McQuire, the voice of football, the voice on the price of football. He loves us. He loves the spreadsheet, and I think one of his things he said he got a notification at 2 a.m. in the morning that someone else's financial reports have been released. So he loves Company's House, and this week's been three teams in each division that have really caught my eye in terms of spending. A lot of the end of the year reports are coming in, and it's just mind boggling. I was just talking to you before we started about Leicester and the trouble they're in, and it's just astronomical. But I thought it'd be good for us actually because we've talked about finances before of how difficult it is for us and what we're competing against, and the board have said we're just not sustainable in League One or League Two. So I thought it'd be good if there's one from each division. Obviously, one division is the Championship, which is our aim to get into. And it was QPR's accounts that were released. Now I look at QPR. I don't know about you, Nick, but when I was younger, QPR were what was a really good local derby in the Premier League. One of my best mates is a QPR fan, so I enjoyed it when we used to beat them quite regularly at Loftus Road, or whatever it's called now. I can't remember what it's called now, but we call it
Loftus Road.
Loftus Road. So I look at them as a similar size club, even still now, to Wimbledon in terms of support base, ground size. Their ground's bigger, but they can't improve it. So I always look at their finances, and it was just unbelievable. So they finished 15th in the championship last year, and I look at them as a mid to bottom championship side now. I'm looking at that, but it just shocks me in terms of so basically their revenue was 28 million quid last year, which increased by 9%, but their wages increased by 15%, which basically means for every £100 of revenue coming in, £98 was spent on salaries, which is up £6 from last year. And it's sort of their total loss over the years. It doesn't say how many years, but say it's 10 years. They lost 387 million over the years. So let's just say it's 10 years. It's 5 is even worse. If it's 10 years, that's nearly 40 million quid a year. I just don't. For revenue, they can't increase. They're very similar to us, right? And I know they're championship side and stuff like that, right? But they can't increase their revenue because they can't really do much with their ground. They can't increase capacity. We can't either. So all you're going to do is by getting better sponsorship deals or increasing prices. But like 387 million, their total borrowing has been 115 million. So it's just the scale of it. It's just, I see, what you were showing your head. It's unreal. Like the wages thing, a lot of teams now are spending over 100. So £98 for every 100 actually is round about the average. To give you an example, Leicester are like 200%, £200 for every £100 revenue, but they inherited a lot of Premier League salaries. But they reckon the actual, I think on PSR and the actual, the perfect thing is around about £70 for every 100. That's what the sort of, not recommended, but that's where you're being sensible. But the amount of teams that are doing, so the revenue coming in it's still not good enough for them. But I just thought for a championship, mid-table to bottom table, it's just mind-boggling.
I would love to know how many clubs' wages. So QPR essentially, they're at 98% wages against revenue. Right?
Yes.
How many clubs are over 100%?
I would say there's probably a good. Well, I think I think your clubs that come down from the Premier League will be,
Yeah.
because they will use
Mhm.
parachute payments, won't they? But I wouldn't be surprised if probably half of that league at
Yeah.
least. And it's the sustainability of it all. Look, football's fucked. We've said that. We know that.
Completely. Yeah.
But the figures sometimes are just. When I saw the losses of £387 million,
Yeah, I know it's ridiculous.
like, just put that. Sometimes it's like you say these numbers and you just say them and you don't really put any context into it.
Mm.
But if you put some context, right, our main stand cost £22 million to build 5 years ago. So on that logic, we could probably make Power Lane up to about 60, 70,000 with that money, if we could build higher and higher and higher. Do you know what I mean? But it's
Did
just,
that really cost us 22 million pounds? That was that cost
22
us.
million pounds. Yeah, 22 million
Jesus,
pounds.
really? There's
So
one
it's
exit. There's one exit. There's lists that don't work. Like, what's
yeah.
going on?
It's one of the things I always say when I do my tours, that's part of my spiel and stuff like that. And people look shocked when they see it. And I always say to them, that was 5 years ago. The cost of parts and labour and everything, you're probably looking at that stand is probably close to 20, 25, 26 million. So when people say, what's the next stand? What's the next stand to build? And it's probably an interesting topic because, part of the we're looking for minority investors to come in. And part of that is working capital. And the working capital is to look at maybe a training ground or improve the stadium. Well, that's a lot of money.
It's crazy.
And
We're
don't get me wrong,
talking crazy sums of money.
and don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that we build a three-tier executive boxes, lounges in. We probably might be able to reduce that by half by having a bog standard stand.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and also when you look at the player purchases were £10 million last season, player sales 2.5 million. So again, they are a category one for their training centre, so they do look at bringing a lot of kids and that. But again, they're still not making money. Their sales are still down. A quarter of what the player purchases have been.
I'm still trying to get my head around 22 million pounds worth of West Stand because, the steps don't even drain water. When it rains, you're traipsing through puddles. Couldn't even do that.
It's why you're
22
paying.
million pounds.
It's why you're paying so much in your posh seats.
Don't get me started. This is all evidence, as we've said many times, that football is just an absolute mess. When you talk about the sums, 387 million pounds loss over the years for QPR, and you're right. We say these numbers, but people don't actually stop to think about what these numbers actually mean. The problem is we've become totally desensitized to it. So if you say that Arsenal have signed a player for 70 million pounds, people go. People don't even think. People don't even stop to think. Wow, what could that 70 million? I know this isn't how society works, people, right? But you think about it and go, wow, what could you do with that 70? What could be done that would benefit society with 70 million pounds? And I guarantee it's not signing one player to essentially, and I keep using this phrase, to kick a ball in a different coloured shirt for a couple of years.
And do you know what's interesting? We're going to talk about Arsenal in a little bit, just to do some comparison on season tickets. But Saka signed a new 5-year deal this week, and reportedly on 300 grand a week.
Fuck off.
However, Arsenal put up their prices, so you could end up paying nearly 100 quid to go and watch a team at the Emirates Stadium, right? But I don't see them Arsenal fans going, well, 1 second, if we weren't paying 300 grand to Saka, we actually might not need to pay so much coming into the stadium. It's just, this is the mind-boggling side of it, and it seems to me like people are you're right, desensitized from even paying 70 quid getting into a stadium. Arsenal could go up to, for some of the Champions League's quarterfinals and semi-finals, could be looking at anywhere up to 150 quid. So your normal fan is no longer, the working class fan is no longer really wanted.
No, it's gone.
They're not wanted because actually they, but yeah, it's mind-boggling. But yeah, so QPR is an interesting one. Obviously, there's one in our division as well, which a team I think we're a bigger club on, but probably not massively bigger at the moment. Burton released their financial data for last season. So bearing in mind, this was when they brought in Robert to oversee a project, and the project was they were going to bring in 22 new players and build up this sort of like, player sales. And I think the idea was very much what Brentford and Brighton do with data and stuff like that. Robert lasted 11 games. They told him it was a 3 and 4 year project, and they lied and told him that they get sacked after 11 games. But where do we start with this? So wages.
Oh, I'll tell you.
Go on.
I'll tell you. Amortization, which I believe is a fancy word for depreciation, up
Yeah.
385%.
Yeah.
What facilities have they got depreciated to nearly 4 times their value?
It's unreal, isn't it? Like, so if we're looking at what we said with QPR in terms of how much they're spending per £100 revenue, so their revenue was their revenue was 6.4 million, which didn't change from the previous year, which is mad that you can obviously charge the same prices. But for every £100 revenue, they are spending £122.
Mm-hmm.
And if you compare it to the year before, they paid £84 for every £100 coming in.
I mean, it's just crazy.
It's unbelievable. Player sales or player purchases of 1.18 million. I don't think our squad is worth that on there. And I have to say, right, the funniest thing, well, you've picked up a different thing with the employees, but the thing that so they got new owners, so the Nordic Football Group, they actually had a management charge for the owners of 1.3 million. They actually paid themselves to make a loss.
Jesus. What is going on?
It's just unreal, isn't it? It's unreal. But let's just say, and obviously the employees thing is one you picked up. They've got 315 employees, up 73.
Who are these people?
My argument, most of them were the players, probably. But my argument is, though, right, in seriousness, right, you can't continue to be losing that amount of money. So they lost £8.3 million, which was written off by the owners. They actually written it off, right? But ultimately, if you're bringing in, if I was an employee of Burton in whatever capacity they are, you're going to be first in, first out. It's just, it's not sustainable, but it's just.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Last in, first out.
Sorry, yes. First in, first out, probably been a manager at the moment. But yeah, that is a team that I think are very comparable in what we would be competing against in every metric. But it's just like, and apparently the rumour is they're already trying to sell the club. Why wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean? But
of course,
they've already had to swallow nearly £10 million worth of loans that they wrote off. Mind-boggling. If you think about how well Burton were run under their previous ownership, we talked about Mansfield, but Nigel Clough was at Mansfield for a long time. They were a very solid. They spent quite a long time in League One. I think they got to Championship from memory.
They did. Yeah, they were second tier for a bit. Yeah.
But there's only, and what are they at the moment? They're 2 places above the bottom 4 at the moment. They are in. I'm mind-boggling that a club in our division comparable is in that state.
Well, comparable in the sense of, I guess, I don't know. I mean, fan bias wise and natural level, no, we dwarf them. I think it's fair to say. But this is a great example of the question I keep asking everyone I speak to about football is, what are we even doing? So what is Burton attempting to do? Stay in the 3rd tier for what reason? To keep losing, like you say, to keep losing £8 million or whatever it is a season, £8.3 million loss. Like, why are they even bothering? What is the purpose of all this? Seriously, what is the end game? Because it's not glory. There's no glory in battling at the bottom end of the 3rd tier forever and a day. There's no point to it. So essentially what we're saying here is this is all entirely pointless, and yet it carries on because no one thinks to go, this is all a bit stupid, really, isn't it? Can we gain some perspective on life, please?
Well, I think from what I've been looking at a lot of financial there's a lot of podcasts at the moment that do financial backgrounds on football and that. And it's interesting. There's a lot of American owners and foreign owners. And it was said on one of what I was watching is that a League One club, if you buy a League One club, you can buy it for relatively little money. Sometimes you can buy it for £1, some of them in such states. But if you got them into Championship, all of a sudden the cost, the value of that club can double, treble, quadruple. and you can sell at a profit. If you buy a Championship club and you get them into the Premier League, then it's serious money. And that's where it is. A lot of them are are taking that, are going, look at from the Championship to the Premier League. If you include solidarity money and parachute payments, you can be there for one league, one season, and 150 million quid is probably guaranteed into your numbers. So that's very much when I say there's no money in football. There is a little bit. If you can sell your club at a profit, you can. But I don't ever think Burton were that. We've been to Burton. Burton is a very much, in my opinion, a club that is in its community. It will stay that standard. It will be a League One, League Two club. It's not going to improve its ground, even though it's probably got the area to do it. But it's not a club that should be losing that amount of money. No way.
No, absolutely not. As I say, what is the purpose of all this? On that note, Stu, what's going on in the bottom tier? What's happening there?
Yeah, so Cheltenham were one of the ones that released that, and it's not. Hey, look, it's not as serious as Burton, but Cheltenham, again, I class that as a League Two stroke conference club. Their losses last year were 325,000, so a little bit less, but relative to the Division A in. However, it was only 31,000 loss in 2024. So that tells you. So in that division, borrowing wise, so the total loss over the years, again, doesn't say how many years, but 2 million. But it doesn't say, these accounts are not as in depth as some of them are, but borrowings was 652,000 this year. Employees 110, so that's not too bad, but that gives you a comparison on two clubs. Nearly a third of what Burton have got.
Yeah, less than a third. Yeah.
So Cheltenham just gives you a little bit of context. But then if you look below Cheltenham in terms of you look in on league, Forest Green, Rochdale, and York spending probably a lot more money than that.
Yeah, big clubs though, they've got huge fan bases. Those clubs, well, York maybe not so bad, but the other two, geez.
Carlisle, York.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, York, decent size. Forest Green, you could miss it if you blinked. You could miss it.
Yeah. I wish we could.
But yeah, so Cheltenham was an interesting, just in terms of context of even at League Two level, you can't be losing 2 million quid over a few years because I think someone's got to put that money in. And Cheltenham historically are not a club that will spend lots of money. But these clubs, to even compete in League Two, you're having to lose money. And my argument has always been, if we were really unlucky this year to get relegated, the League Two that we're entering next year, if we get relegated, compared to the league we got relegated out of, could be still £1 million difference in terms of wages, and because these leagues are not standing still, they're pumping more and more money in. So your clubs like Cheltenham are going to have to continue to do that if they even want to stand still. Yeah, worrying times when you reflect on obviously what we are going through at the moment with our own financial challenges.
Well, as we said, we can't compete with this on any level. There's just no chance. And the club have said that anyway. I mean, we've covered this before. I'm not going to go through it all again.
No, but it's just to provide some context on end of year reports of this is the cold hard truth of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is what I'm saying. It's like if we want to hey, look, football's fucked basically. The only way you're going to change this, or the only reason we're going to be able to fix this in any way, shape, or form is if there's a breakaway. Because you're not going to fix it. You're not going to fix it within football. Like I said, it all trickles down from the top. And we can have these arguments about trickle-down economics, but the economic model does trickle down, unfortunately, in football. And because of the ridiculous world we live in at the top end, this is why clubs like Burton are making so many losses to try and, as you say, stand still, just to keep up with everything that comes down. And the biggest driver, salaries. So like you say, the Arsenal situation, the salaries that they're now having, that they are, I mean, come on, people. Like, no one can justify this to me. Nobody, you cannot say. And I go all the way down into the fourth tier as well when you look at the salaries that we were paying as a League Two club, right? No one can justify those to me. I don't want to hear short careers. I never want to hear that phrase. They do not become economically inactive the moment they can't play football anymore. You've got millions of jobs out there you can do. Well, maybe not so much with AI coming to ruin us all.
I think, John, I think the interesting thing is, I think in a week Barcelona officially dropped out of the Super League. So there was a company that
Is
was
that
set
still?
up. Yeah, there was still a company. There was a company that was set up to deal with the Super League, and they,
Mm,
the clubs that joined it. And Real Madrid are the only club that still remain
of
in that.
course.
So they want to be a league on their own, bless them. But if you listen to a lot of experts within football, they say it's just a matter of time before the Super League comes
Oh
back.
yeah, naturally. Yeah, yeah.
I think in a way for your fan that maybe isn't a fan of the top 8 clubs in the Premier League, I think if
Mm,
you're a Burnley
mhm.
fan or something like that, I think the best thing would be for the Super League to come in, take away those clubs. Yes, it will take away the TV deals because the only reason these TV companies paid the money is because of the top 6. They're the interest, the rest are
Mhm.
not really. And then football, then it'll be very much to when Satanta Sport went out of business. No, it wasn't Satanta, was it? It was ITV Digital went out of business.
Mm.
It'll be a bit of pain, but actually, do you know what? There will still be TV deals because the English league and the English pyramid is still very strong. But I think it's going to take the Super League and then to readjust with TV revenue, and that's probably the only chance football will have of somehow getting back to some realistic. But that ain't going to happen. Super League could be a couple of years. It could be 5, 6, 7 years before then. But that's the only way I see football really sorting itself out.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I can only agree unless people get together in the meantime. I mean, but the first thing that has to happen is you have to have footballers and football agents have to realize you cannot be making the money you're making because it's just ridiculous. And no, none of them deserve it at all in any way, shape, or form. All right. And I will have that argument with anyone that wants to argue that with me. I mean, you just said what, Saka's on what, 300 grand a week?
Yeah.
He shouldn't 3 grand a week, I would find absurd for a footballer. And I'm not even joking, that is absurd. That's ridiculous. 3 grand a week to
It's
play
off.
football.
It is. It is. And it's really difficult, isn't it? Because I remember having this argument with my dad many, many years ago of like, the problem is there's so much money coming into the game. You would rather it go to the people that are producing it on the pitch than the owners and stuff
Yes.
like that. However,
Yes, that's fair.
there's another argument that sort of money could go into. So, look, these clubs do a lot you look at Man City, they do a lot in the area, and we know that's a lot of sport washing and stuff like that and stuff.
Yeah.
But realistically, the money coming into these clubs, if it went back into the stadia, the community, facilities, look at us at Wimbledon, right? We have a 5-a-side pitch, just one, but that is used by the community. The football,
Mm.
in the community, the football in the community do a great job at that. I've been a plough lane on doing stadium tours. There's many kids playing on them pitches. Imagine what we could do with, I don't know, 100 million of putting actually facilities, making the ground better, making it more open. There's so much money coming in, it doesn't have to go to the players every time.
No,
But
it always does.
that's how it's been built up, and it's very difficult now to close the door and go, well, actually, do you know what? That player that's on 300 grand, you can have 100 grand. Even 100 grand, you ain't gonna spend that in a in a year or whatever.
Hmm.
But this is why I say football's fucked. And good luck to the financial regulator. But everyone that thinks it's going to be an overnight fix, living in dreamworld.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. In terms of our own situation, like we say, we cannot, as we said, we can't make these sorts of losses that these clubs are making. It's just not, we don't have that ability to do that under our current model. Coming up to end of February now, so we should hear news shortly on season tickets, and I'm hoping some movement on the 50+1 vote, of which there was a
Yeah,
banner at the away end at Cardiff on Tuesday night, I
I
saw.
noticed that. That's
Hmm.
interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I
I just
think
like
they,
to reiterate, sorry, can I just say, just very quickly on that one?
yeah.
Like I said to you last week, Luton Town do not own Kenilworth Road. I'm just saying. All right.
Do you know what, right? I looked at it, and the first thing I looked at was it 50.1, and then there's a thing about, but we want Plough Lane to be 100% fan
Yeah.
owned. And
Hmm.
this is where I have a sort of issue, because I think it's unrealistic. And I might be totally wrong here, right? But I don't see how you can sell it. If we did go to that way of selling the cup, I don't see any way anyone comes in who doesn't then want to have Plough Lane as an asset.
No, and there's 2 points to this one, Stu. It's absolutely 100%. Anyone that comes in is going to, the stadium ownership has to come with that. 100%. If the owners of the club don't own the stadium, then somebody else has to foot the bill, maintaining it.
And improving it. So we
Yeah,
want whoever comes in to give us working capital to
yeah,
improve a stadium. But why would you improve a stadium that you don't own?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Someone said to me the other day, well, yeah, but they would benefit from the revenue. Well, we've made 10 million quid and we still can't make a profit on that. So they're not going to make on that. I think, and again, look, I'm not in any way an expert on ground ownership and stuff. Anyway, and I get it, right? We've been hit, we've been burnt once. You don't want to be burnt again, right?
Yeah.
The only thing I see is that the council purchase it and we
Mhm.
have a 100-year lease.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's protected. That's in my
Yeah.
head. That would
Mhm.
be, but to
That
think that
is, yeah, could work.
we can dictate to investors our terms, which is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
we can't.
just ridiculous. It's just
Yeah.
we have to live in the real world. But yes, the
Mhm.
season tickets coming. They should be out very soon, shouldn't they? 50.1. I think it said on this slides 23rd of March or around that date. So I
Right.
think we have to be. I think we have to be given 30-day notice. So if
Mhm.
that is the date, then we should see something next week.
Yeah,
Um,
Monday. Yeah.
Season tickets was also mentioned that should be released at the end of February.
Mhm.
People may not have caught that, but I did catch that at the end of James Woodruff's speech. So we should see that and see what the prices are. It sort of said what the prices are, but I'm really keen to see what the match day prices are and stuff like that. So March, you know what? March is a busy month. Pay for your season ticket, Plough Lane bond, and loads of fixtures. March is a hell of a month.
Uh, Important birthdays in
I
March
was going
as
to
well.
say,
The Arsenal guy.
I might age by about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I might get to like mid-30s if
So
in this time.
March is the month. But yeah,
March
um,
Madness.
yeah. I was just
Mm.
going to say, by the way, when we talk about season ticket, I sort of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but Arsenal have released. So Arsenal are. So you know, a lot of clubs now have categories, don't they? It's A, B, C, D. I don't know. Did we ever do that at Wimbledon in the
Oh, well, I
Premier
thought
League?
when you said like clubs have categories, I thought like there was a dickhead category in which Watford and Milton Keynes belong and Chelsea in
So
there. And then,
season ticket category of games.
oh, I see. Yes, of course. Yes.
Did we have that in the Premier League at Wimbledon? I swear we
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
did. Okay, so it's not ongoing, right? However, Arsenal have released theirs, and Arsenal have included a category above category A, which is called conveniently
Of
category A plus, right?
course.
So they are proposing that these are going to be, and this is quite assumption. This is quite, they've been quite optimistic. Well, they're probably not.
Mm.
So the A plus will be your Champions League quarterfinals and semi-finals, which will be a 15% increase on category A, which is your Man Uniteds and all that sort of side of it, or the big six, as they say here. But it will increase to between £90 and £168
For a match day ticket.
for a match day ticket.
What are you even doing? Well, we said, why would you? Right, so this is my point, Stu. Like you said earlier, you said this in your own words earlier, in fact. Okay, so you're a working class guy from North London who supports Arsenal, supported Arsenal all your life. Your dad supported them, used to take you on the terraces at Highbury, right?
Yeah.
You ain't going anymore. You ain't going anymore. And why? Because even if you were to pay 150
Oh,
odd quid, or whatever it is, to go and watch a game of football, which is absurd and obscene, what about Arsenal? And this isn't just about Arsenal, by the way, but this is any Premier League team. What about the team that you're about to watch in any way represents you? Is it the ownership? I doubt it. Is it the manager? Probably not. Probably got nothing in common in whatsoever. Is it the millionaires kicking the ball on the pitch? No. What are we at? Do you know, I think it's just because people are just so far gone that people don't even question what they're doing anymore. It's just like, well, I'm an Arsenal fan, so and it's almost like they don't even think about what they're doing anymore. It's just become habit. Perhaps there's also an element of the worst word that can be given to a football fan. Oh, you're not loyal. This whole idea of disloyalty. Well, if you stop going, you're not loyal. It's like, so what? There are other things in life, right? Do you know what I mean? Our whole relationship with football is completely skewed to like we've said, all this podcast. It's just not in a real world in any way, shape, or form. I think a few years ago I wrote an article for the website, which I think at the time they were talking about banning gambling ads on top of banning alcohol ads, banning
yeah.
smoking ads, all this sort of thing. I'm thinking, well, the biggest vice, I think, as I've phrased it, is football itself. because people just can't give it up. But when
No.
they're being charged those prices, why are the Arsenal fans not going, screw this, I'm going to do something else with my life on a Saturday? Well, no, even on a Saturday, on a fucking Thursday night for some reason.
Well, this is the argument, isn't it? If you look at how I look at it is there's an opportunity there because a lot of clubs are doing this, Premier League clubs and even Championship clubs.
Of course.
There's an opportunity for us as Wimbledon and probably a lot of clubs like your Bromleys and stuff like that to actually go. You can. We used to be able to say you can come watch a game on Saturday at 3 o'clock. We can't say that as much now, but it is an opportunity for us to go to these fans. Go, well, John, what you can come watch football at a working man's cost, even though I think 30 quid is still too much to come into Power Lane. But the reason I mention it,
Yes,
one,
but
it's
relative.
unreal. One, it's unreal, right? Two, is it something that we might look at? You know, not an A plus, but we've got to be honest, right? If we are going to stay fan owned, and even with minority investment, we probably have to pay it. And if you look at the slides that come out of the meeting, it did say to really be sustainable in League One or League Two would be an extra £250 per person. Okay, so we have to increase money. Could we create a category A, B? You know, A, because there's a lot of bit. I'm not saying this is anything that's been spoken about, but I'm just chucking it out there. Is that something we may do in the future? You know, because there's a lot of big clubs in this league.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are clubs that already do this at our level. I mean, we're not talking to the extremes, obviously, in Premier League, but I'm sure that, category A or whatever they call it, I'm sure Luton versus Plymouth is more high category game for them than if they're hosting Burton Albion, for example.
Yeah, I'll be truthful, I've not done extensive research, and somebody may want to do that, but it was just me thinking out loud of, if you're going to increase your money, we're going to do a 13% increase. You know what? And who would be a category A team? That would be. Would we even get into our own category A?
Well, didn't they first introduce these because not only was it the case of it wasn't just someone could correct me on this one, but my memory of it when it first came in, it was less to do with the profile of the team they were playing and more to do with the policing cost that would increase because of it. So, for example, at Selhurst Park, West Ham would always be like a top category game because we'd have to pay for a lot more police, for example.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. I think that was probably mainly the initial initiative, and then it's become,
Yes.
well, actually, we can just...
Mission creep with everything.
It may not come to us. We can just charge them that extra,
Exactly,
isn't
yeah.
it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just saw it, and it just, again, was another reason for me to just laugh out loud of, you lot are being mugged off paying this. But the problem is it's supply and demand. And I don't know whether you've seen the thing on that's going around on socials with two international fans at the Wolves game wearing Wolves tops in the Wolves end. Arsenal score, and underneath they lift up their shirt, and underneath is an Arsenal shirt. Apparently, there are influencers, but the reason I mention it is because those are the fans that will pay that money because they're coming for one game.
Yeah,
it's like you and I going.
Of course, yeah.
It's like you and I going to America, isn't it? And we say we went to America and went to Miami, right? You're going to pay 150 quid to watch Messi because it's an attraction.
It's once in a lifetime, yeah.
But everyone else in Miami can't afford to do that.
No. Well, they probably could in Miami, to be honest.
Probably. Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of thing, but it just makes me laugh. And it makes me laugh because it's never ending. How can we get more money out of people? And it's just, funny. I just like to say, I was just surmising. But, and I was also reading some other day, someone was saying that the reason Arsenal ladies get such a good attendance at the Emirates is because it's a damn sight cheaper to get into the Emirates than it is to watch the first team. But, yeah.
Makes you wonder, Stu. It really does. Do you know how much, but just to compare, I know you shouldn't compare because they're not the same things, but okay, so I didn't watch the Cardiff game on Tuesday. I went to see a film instead. It cost me 13 quid.
Yeah.
Do I think that £13 was a better use of my money? I mean, a lot cheaper than a ticket to Cardiff. Yes, I do. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I saw a great film, and it was a perfectly good evening, perfectly well entertained. 13 quid. So, why? What are we doing? Seriously, what are we doing with football? Because next season, like I say, and 9 games to go, as we said to you. What, 3 of them at home, Saturday, 3 o'clock. That's what we've looked at before we started recording. And if I
Unreal.
was to rock up, if I was to rock up on the day, that's going to cost me to sit where I sit, for example. Look, I know I can sit elsewhere if I chose to, but we said last week, what, 30 quid, 30 quid to get into Plough Lane, possibly for me to go and watch that. I mean, the comparison, there's no comparison.
Yeah, the lowest entry point is maybe 30 quid at the South Stand, and that could be 35. But you're right, 30. I don't do away games anymore, and I sometimes look and I think, do you know what I want to do an away game? And I probably would go by coach, because you basically can go to America probably cheaper on a plane than you can get a train to anywhere. But even the cost of coach travel now, you're looking 40, 50 quid before you even started even getting a ticket. And everything just seems to, and I know, don't get me wrong, I know coach cost isn't reflective on a club, it's reflective on cost of living and stuff like that. But even getting to, like, these people that do away games, fair play to them. There's some that I know have done every game.
Yeah.
And they haven't got the coach, to be fair, they've probably gone by their own car and stuff. But to get a train now is just like, I saw the other day someone was going to book a late train, and I think they were looking at 150 quid. Like, what the? So even if I want to go away games now, there's actually no incentive or any. Well, it's not even an incentive. It's just so expensive to do anything. But as we say, supply and demand, isn't it? People are still paying it. So every time people pay these 30 quid to get into Plough Lane, etc., and that, then there's a demand. And when's the tipping point? We always thought there was going to be one, but hasn't seemed to hit yet.
I think Ben Shepherd presents it. It's about 3 o'clock on ITV. I think. I don't know, because this is half term. I'd not even be able to check that one out, to be honest with you. My £13, by the way, for the cinema was for a premium seat, like where you get the extra legroom.
Do you know what?
Actually, I could have gone for 11 quid, but
There's a new, obviously I live in Epsom, and I think there's a picture house or something like that it's called, and they've got like sofas and and I think the prices are a little bit, but I think they're no more than 20, 25 quid. I haven't been to the cinema for God knows, but I would probably pay that. One, because I don't go to the cinema that much. Well, I haven't been for years. And two, the product is really good. But yeah, and I think this is the argument, isn't it? People will pay money if the product's good, right? But anyone that's been to Plough Lane this year would go, actually, you know what? There's 7 games we didn't even score a goal, and probably most of them we didn't have a shot on target. So you could say, actually, the product on the pitch isn't that great. We're charging through the roof for it. But actually, we wouldn't want to charge through the roof, but we have to because everyone else is. So the product isn't getting any better.
No, but actually, when you think about it, see, for you and me, Stu, I don't know, the product on the pitch in terms of successful team and entertaining football and all this, it was never part of the equation for me growing up. It was, do you know what I mean? Like, I never really thought about it. For me, it was the whole thing of going to football, going to a stadium, the atmosphere of it, the whole thing that comes with it, the community aspects of it, the atmosphere.
Yeah.
What actually happened on the pitch actually wasn't a priority to begin with, bizarrely. It's just, and I think that's where we have lost touch with what football is really, isn't it? It's there. It's a community thing. It brings people together. It's the shared goal kind of thing. But we get lost in a sea of XG and all this nonsense and stuff.
I think, George, the attraction when I first went was just the absolute. I remember my first game. My first game was Arsenal in 1990, but one of my best mate used to live in Gap Road. His nan used to live in Gap Road, so we would go and watch Grandstand for latest scores coming in. Yeah, and because it was on a corner of Gap Road. Obviously when they were kicking people out at Plough Lane, they would open up the corner where the sportsman was. Right. And I remember it really well. We were both Liverpool fans because that was the only team to support them days, because they were always on TV. The only team on TV, to be fair. And I remember probably 87 or 88, Liverpool played at Plough Lane. They were winning, and they opened up the corner bit, and me and my mates snuck in. And I just remember the pitch seemed to be this magical magical green, like a luminous green. The floodlights were on because it was that hot time of the year. And I just remember going, wow. Do you know what I mean? And I can honestly say, when I go to Plough Lane, there are still some moments when I get there. I'm lucky enough I do the stadium tour. So if we do a midweek game, obviously the floodlights are on. And I walk through that tunnel out and I still go, wow, it's still that buzz. That's never changed for me. But I still do like the product. I suppose as I've got older and money becomes a lot more challenging, you want to see value for money.
Yeah, but that feeling you
I think
get
that's
of,
what
like
I
you
am.
say, with the floodlights being on and the green pitch and the atmosphere and everything like that, that doesn't change whether the players on the pitch are getting paid £10 a week or if they're getting paid
Yeah, agree.
£10,000 a week.
Agree.
And that's what I
Agree.
mean when I say we've lost sight of what's actually
And
going
I'd
on.
rather spend more money on the pitch than I would on the
Yeah.
stadium.
No, do you know what? I disagree. If I was going to spend money on the pitch, I'd get motor trucks on there or whatever those things are, and I'd churn that piece of field up as much as possible. Mud everywhere. I want to be like Grimsby the other day because that's proper football.
That was mad, wasn't it? And you saw the youngsters going, "We can't play on that. What are you on about?" Have you ever
Yes,
seen,
yes,
you
you
know, the
can.
most famous goal Ronnie Radford scored against?
Yes.
There was not one bit of grass on the pitch. It's funny you
Oh,
say that. Actually, I've seen a picture of Plough Lane. One of my mates has been at Plough Lane today, and sent me a picture of the pitch, and it's struggling because we've had quite a few games. Anyone who went to the Northampton game, it
cobblers.
it bucketed it down. I've never seen so much rain in a short period, and there was actually surface water on the pitch. I've not seen that for God knows how long. I mean, obviously, we then played on it, didn't we? So the pitch is not in the most greatest condition. But I think what I mean by I would rather spend money on the pitch, the stadium, improving. You know, I don't believe we have enough kiosks in all the kiosks we have. We just don't serve quick enough. So you know, that's all the thing that I would want to improve the match day experience. But yeah, that's fair swear. But yeah, do you know what I say? The buzz I get still when I go to Plough Lane, I'm a very lucky person to get behind the scenes and do those tours. And it never fails to make me happy when I see reactions of people going through the tunnel and looking at the pitch. It's just, you know, it's just a bit of grass. But to us, it's the home of Wimbledon, isn't it?
And you mentioned the famous FA Cup upset, Hereford versus Newcastle. No grass on the pitch, but we won't talk about Prince Andrew right now. Should we have a go of Richard Osman Foyo's House of Games?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Bit of a random one this week. This came up in the week, and I thought, hey, we can make a game out of this one. There is a famous fast show sketch, Ted and Ralph.
Yeah.
Where they're playing a drinking game in which they have to put the name of a vegetable in the correct order between every word that they say. All right. I'm going to play a version of that this week, Stu. I'm going to give you a question. You're going to answer the question, but before each word, you're going to put a vegetable. And to make this, to add to the drama of this one, in the game on the Far Show, they'd have to do it in a particular order. I'm not going to get you to do that, but the vegetable has to start with the same letter of the word that it comes before. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So if I was to say to you, what's the name of the stadium we play home matches at?
Would be Plough Lane.
Yes, but your answer would be potato plough.
Potatoes. Or parsnip.
Or parsnip. Parsnip plough, leek, or lettuce lane. You see?
Okay.
So, okay. Do you want to start with? Let's just get this one out of the way because it doesn't really fit with the rest of them. Centre midfielder, used to play for Bolton and Millwall, did bugger all.
Lettuce Liam, tomato trotter.
Very good. I was hoping you were going to go for turnip trotter. I'll take tomato.
Well, I always thought it was a bit of a tomato. Tomato.
Yes, he was.
Right, if it was rotten tomatoes, he wouldn't be scoring very high.
There we go. Do you know what? If I was to put, we could throw rotten tomatoes at Liam Trotter. I think most people would be quite happy with that. In fact, if we could put him in the stocks, I would like to throw hot Bovril and gravel at him.
Not just Bovril, hot steaming Bovril.
Yes. This is, of course, a joke. I have to make that very clear every time I reference his name.
It's like saying, well, we have to say that they've been accused, but they have not admitted any liability. Yes. That's what I hear on the news for some reason at the moment.
We'll go back to Prince Andrew. Anyway, right, our first competitive opponents as AFC Wimbledon.
Our third? Wow. So we've got Sandhurst, Chipstead.
No, hold on. First. I said.
Oh,
yes.
okay. So
I mean, just for the record, by the way, Stu, just for the record, if it was the third, it would have been
can't be the
Cove.
first. Would it really have been?
It would have been Cove.
I remember going to Cove and they had a fight. It was on the 5th of November, and there was an amazing firework display, which I watched more
Funny that.
because of the football. We've won the game by about half time. Anyway,
Mm.
so Sweet Corn, Sandhurst, Turnip Town.
Very good. Very good. Right, so next one. Where was the venue of that game?
Oh, something bottom, wasn't it?
Not Crinkly Bottom. That's something else. Prince Andrew again.
I can't think. A vegetable starting with B. Oh my days, that's going to struggle me. A brown onion. A brown onion.
I can't give you brown onion.
Is it lettuce little, brown
No.
onion bottom?
No, it's not Little Bottom. I mean, I don't know what you're thinking of either. But
New
okay,
bottom, meadow bottom. I can't think
it
what
was, yes, it was Meadow.
Meadow.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Family Guy fans are going mental at this with a vegetable beginning with B.
Meadow. Fruit that starts with M.
Vegetable.
A mouldy potato, meadow.
No, oh my good God,
and a brown
my word.
onion, a brown onion bottom.
We're going. I mean, that might be the most ridiculous sentence we've ever said, not just on this podcast, in the history of the world. Brown onion bottom, mouldy potato meadow.
Isn't it weird how I remembered meadow? Isn't it weird that I can't remember what I did yesterday sometimes?
No, you can't remember broccoli either, for example.
Oh, yeah, but I don't like broccoli.
Yeah, mushrooms.
That's a very good point. No, yeah, mouldy. Yeah.
Okay. Without the sponsor's name, because it didn't have one when we played, what was the name of the league we played them in? The three-word name.
Carrot combined. Another carrot.
You can't have carrot again. Think of something that goes with broccoli regularly. Similar to broccoli.
Cabbage.
Yeah, we'll take it. Yeah, we'll take it.
So carrot combined, cabbage counties, lettuce league.
Very good. Last one. Where did we? And again, I don't want any sponsor's name. Where did we get promoted back into the Football League against Luton Town?
Oh, Carrot City.
No.
Starts
with the word before that.
Oh yeah, Tomatoda.
Mm-hmm.
Carrot City, onion of mouldy onions, Manchester.
Mushroom, maybe?
Mushroom, you said it. See, do you know what?
Said it.
The problem is, right, is I only think about vegetables that I like.
Of course. So, I mean, if I was to get you to add one more word to the end of that answer, by the way, so tomato, the carrot city, onion of mushroom, Manchester.
Sweet corn stadium.
Very good, sweet corn. I had spinach, but we'll take sweet corn.
Again, I like sweet corn. I don't like spinach. Well, no, spinach is all right. I just find it a little bit of a work. I literally look at it sometimes as like Popeye, because obviously he loves spinach. But I remember putting it into a curry.
Right, yeah.
I remember putting it into a curry once, and it just disappeared. I'm like, that's a bit of a waste.
Should have had some smashed mango instead in your curry.
Smashed mango curry.
How can we forget? Talking of curries, Bradford.
Oh, what are these?
It's like we write this stuff. Right, Bradford City, they visit Potato Plough Leek Lane on Saturday. They are fourth in the table. Graham Alexander is in charge. Stu, they have gone 15 games without a draw.
Wow.
They have lost their last 3 away from home. So we know what this means. It means this game has got draw written all over it.
Yeah, especially when you look at some of the stats, like they've only conceded 21 goals away from home, which is top 8. And actually, in the last 8 games, they've only scored 8. So they scored a goal a game for the last 8 games. So they're going through probably a little bit of their a bad patch for them. But when you look at the recruitment they did in January, they really. And I remember the Bradford chairman saying that they've had to increase their budget for League One, but they can't compete with other teams. He must be telling porkies because they've really done well in terms of their signings and their squad. So fair play to them. I think it's a really tough game. However, I've got a sneaky feeling that we may snatch it.
Any scoreline?
I'm going to go. It's not going to be a 1-0. I'm going to go for another high-scoring game. I'm going to go for another 3-2.
Okay. I will say 1-1, but we will, of course, welcome back Josh Nerfield to Plough
Yes.
Lane. We shall also, for the third game in a row, play against a former Wimbledon goalkeeper in Sam Walker. And we have not yet mentioned, of course, Owen Goodman's incredible ability to concede 3 goals to us.
I know,
on
bless him.
Saturday.
Dan Walker's an interesting one. I remember Robbo brought him in, and I think he played a virtual. Well, it was probably a pizza trophy back. I think we played away at Bristol Rovers, and he was shocking. And he's turned out to be quite a decent player for Bradford. So yeah, I don't think many people will remember him too much, and if they do, they won't remember him as being that good. So let's hope he's shit on Saturday.
Elsewhere in the division, one game stands out to me across all the other fixtures, and that is Northampton versus Leyton Orient.
Yes.
6-pointer, definition of. Is there anything else?
There's a couple. Yeah, that one was the one I saw in Rotherham Doncaster as well.
So
there's some.
How did I miss that?
Yeah, so there's some games down the bottom there that are going to really impact us if we can, if we can pick up maximum points on Saturday. It really does help us massively, doesn't it? And obviously Northampton and Orient are still both to come to Plough Lane as well. So Northampton's a weird one. I thought they were decent in the virtual trophy. I know it's more of a reserve team sort of thing, but I looked at their side. They got some experienced players in this league. But yeah, I've said we discussed already. Orient are just shit. So yeah. But yeah, some big games. Some big games down the bottom.
Breaking news is that I say breaking news. You mentioned earlier the FA Cup 5th round and no games on at Saturday 3 p.m. I did actually get a list of those fixtures momentarily, and I noticed that Fulham Southampton will now kick off at the same time as we kick off against Northampton on that Sunday. So that's going to be fun.
The game that Sky moved because they just had to have a game at 12 o'clock and decide what we were doing. And yeah.
So they thought they counter the FA Cup, Fulham versus Southampton. They counter it with Wimbledon versus Northampton.
Do you know what made me chuckle, right? And again, I'm not too sure whether I chuckle or whether I have admiration for it, right? But Ryan Reynolds had Hugh Jackman in a Twitter social media reacting to the draw between Wrexham and Chelsea. And some of me thinks it's not this fairy tale anymore. You spent more money than most teams in the Championship, but the actual to have them two in a video, of course, the clicks are just massive, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then they said, "Oh yeah," and they said it's such it's a massive game for Wrexham. And then they said, and the last time they played was during the summer out in America.
Oh, jeez.
And you sit there and think they actually played at a glamour friendly in America.
Yeah.
And then it tells you the fairy tale is not a fairy tale. But I sometimes look at how well Ryan Reynolds uses his brand. You can't help but be impressed. But it's not a fancy. Wrexham Chelsea isn't a fancy.
I'm just looking, and actually 2 fixtures listed back to back in a 5th round. 4 of the most detestable football clubs in the country: Wrexham versus Chelsea, Newcastle versus Manchester City. And you talk about fairy tales. Well, the FA Cup is not a fairy tale for those particular fixtures. I cannot lie. Possibly Port Vale versus Port Vale aren't beating Bristol City. Be Bristol City versus Sunderland, maybe.
Well,
Um,
Port Vale, apparently their pitch is absolutely buggered. Port Vale
yeah.
they've lost quite a few games. Obviously, lost the FA Cup game. Apparently, they had a new. I was reading about it. Apparently, they had a contractor in the summer who they'd done a new foundation, a sand based
Talking
pitch,
about a
and
new
apparently it's
foundation.
just not done very well. They're going to repair it in the summer, but they're saying the drainage is absolutely shocking. So one of two things: they're going to get a lot of backlog of games, or two, they're going to play teams on a shit pitch that might help them.
Maybe it will help them, but I don't hold up much hope for Port Vale and the people of Port Vale. I feel sorry for them. Talking about bad pitches, we've not Newport County. We didn't get a chance to mention Newport County. Is it something we want to do now, or we want to save that for another time?
No, we can save that for another time. I think we discussed enough finances.
Okay. Yeah, we'll save that for another time. And besides, yeah, we've spoken about too many other shitholes in the last 5 minutes. I mean, like Wrexham, Newport. Oh, and oh, never going back to either of those two
Newport
places.
is just the ultimate shithole. It's just the
It's the
ultimate.
worst. It's the worst of the worst. Absolutely. Yeah.
I still remember you when we went there last. You said, "Let's have a go around the town," which is probably the worst thing you've ever said, done, because it was. I just couldn't get over one, the standard of the shops, two, the lack of shops, and three, every shop had a broken window or a cage over it.
Yeah. I mean, we've all seen 28 Days Later. That was Newport. It was the river with no water in it that really got me. That was the one.
Like,
Never mind.
I left there thinking, I can't, I'm never coming back to this place. I've never been so grateful to see the Severn
No.
Bridge. Just anything to get away from it was just, yeah, no one, I don't believe anyone lives in Newport.
No, it's a destination place.
But yeah, so I'm never going to listen to you when you go, let's go and have a look around. No, this is probably the best it's going to get.
Well, yeah. On that on that note, I think that probably brings us to the end of this week's show, Stu.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for joining me.
no problem.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Updates from the game with Bradford City will be on Nazi Twitter at 9YRS podcast. But that is it for this week. Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, 2 + 2 = 4. We shall speak to you again next week.